Hey girl, hey, happy Wednesday and good Maven morning. If you don't know me, I'm Olivia Denton Thomas, the brand counselor, helping you go from hustling to wholeness with brand strategy. Um, and today we're talking about crying as a business strategy. I think when you say something like crying, people don't like that idea. Crying signifies vulnerability and maybe even weakness, right? Like we're often told growing up, don't cry. We're hardly ever allowed to really feel our feelings around things because we have to kind of get back to the work. We have to get back to the labor at hand, whatever that labor is. Meanwhile, a lot of the labor that we're actually doing in managing other people and having relationships with other people and working with other people, they are emotional, right? Like everything we're actually doing is emotional labor, and every problem we're really solving is an interpersonal problem. So, why would crying not make sense? So, crying generally doesn't make sense for people because they see it as something that they have to deal with, as opposed to recognizing that the individual who's crying has a need. Now, I will definitely say that some people have weaponized their tears, right? Sometimes tears are used as a means of signifying weaponized incompetence so that another person, instead of having responsibility for what is theirs to be responsible for, they cry and it makes them the victim of the moment. So, this, like, let me be abundantly clear that this isn't about the idea of victimhood or utilizing tears as a way to signify that you don't have the capability or the capacity to actually do the things that you need to do. Like, step one, right? I actually had a client one time who said that when she was in a meeting with someone, they started crying, and obviously her natural response was to start crying too and to outcry the other person. So not that. Not that today. Although that was hilarious. And the girls that get it, get it. Um, so one of the things that happens in our bodies when we need to cry is that we have a block, right? A friend and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, and she was telling me about how she was feeling like quitting, right? She has her business, she's doing the things aren't necessarily working in the ways that she would like them to work. And it's stressful. Like it is. I mean, I think there's a dopamine rush in the beginning of starting a business where you're just like, I'm going to take over the world and it's going to be easy because I'm me, I'm a genius, right? But the reality kind of sets in that the work is still work. Please pardon my nails. Like I'm getting them done tomorrow. That the work is still the work. Um, and in the spaces where you previously were, when you were working for someone else, you likely didn't have the space to actually express emotions around how you were feeling when there were like very low emotions. You probably were able to express high emotions because everyone likes happiness. Like happiness is easy, happiness is manageable unless you yourself are an unhappy person and then you don't like to see other people happy. Different talk for a different day. Um, but when you're working for yourself or when you are working in a mission driven kind of way, when you're like serious about what it is that you're doing, like your emotions are present and like that's absolutely okay. So in the moment when she and I were talking, we did start talking about crying because what crying does is alleviates the potential for burnout. A lot of us are on the brink of burnout because we're going as if we're running from something constantly. We're on the move because that's what we're told that we're supposed to do, like be on the move. And if there is the slightest hint of the potential that things can go wrong. It's like we're supposed to muscle up and keep pushing forward without actually stopping to feel it. Like you have to stop and feel it. Because if you don't stop and feel it, your body will continue to feel it in the moment and later on. So when you don't cry, your nervous system is activated. Your body is saying like, "Hey, we're in danger. There's actually something that's going on that we need to address." And when you don't actually address the needs and regulate yourself, like tears, like sweat, are a cooling system almost for the body. So if you don't actually like release what it is that you need to release, the body kind of has to take over and do what it has to do for survival, right? I just had a conversation with someone who was saying how her job sent her to the hospital constantly. For me, I've definitely been sent to the hospital by my job, right? And I own the business, but I didn't know how to regulate or balance myself enough to actually say, these are my emotions, this is what I need to do with them, and this is how to kind of like move forward appropriately as opposed to just pushing through. I'm a push through person. Like, if there's something that I say I'm going to get done, like, come hell or high water, I'm going to try to get it done because being an acceptable person, right, for a long time, being considered good or worthy, had to do with pushing through more than it had to do with taking care of the base body that itself is worthy, right? Like that's different positioning for that idea. Like we actually have to take care of our bodies, and that's the worthiness. And then everything else can flow from that. But we've been doing it backwards the whole time, where we've been trying to create, why can't I remember this word? We've been trying to create results and saying our results create our worthiness, as opposed to our worthiness creates our results, right? When we take care of our base cells and operate in worthiness, we will get the results. We'll get the results that are appropriate for us and that show the places where we are really good and also the places where we have gaps. Like it's okay to actually have gaps. But when we have gaps, we get to learn what we can fill. We don't ever get that chance if we don't allow ourselves to feel our actual emotions and do work from a place of stability. Um, so crying, crying allows us to do good work. When our bodies are in a position of a lack of safety and they take over, we cannot operate in our full personalities. Like our actual problem solving personalities, our actual um, like enjoyable personalities at all, because now we're just thinking about survival. We're thinking about getting to the next moment instead of thinking about how to live in the current moment, right? So we have to allow ourselves to release the steam so that we can actually be present in the day to day. When I first started my business, I was so depressed. I was so depressed. And I didn't really know why. In hindsight, I understand now that I didn't cry. I didn't actually engage my feelings around entrepreneurship nearly enough. I didn't engage the feelings around why I was doing what I was doing nearly enough. So like I was pushing forward constantly without actually saying like, well, what tools do I have to soothe myself and to actually do what's necessary for myself in these moments of ups and downs, right? It hurts when you send out a proposal and it's not met. It hurts when you send out 5 or 6 proposals and they're not accepted, right? Like all of those things are very real and they're painful because your business is not just about fun times. It's not a hobby. It's something that actually helps your life to move forward. So if this thing that's helping your life move forward is not moving forward, it's scary. So, like, you do have to stop and engage your feelings around that. Otherwise, you get pushed into survival mode. When you engage your feelings around that, you can actually do a little bit more and you can do a little bit differently because you now have the space to think instead of the space to just jump out there. So, from a nervous system perspective, from like a brain functioning perspective, like you really you have to actually cry. You have to release emotion. You have to release the tension, right? Like if you've ever heard me talk about self-care, which I talk about self-care constantly, one of the tenets that I think is important is expression, right? Because burnout happens because we don't express. Our body thinks we're in danger. We don't give that period of release. So our body continues to think we are in danger even after the danger is done, right? So the danger is done. You might even be done the project. You might have gotten a new thing. You might have booked a new client. Yay, congratulations. But because you never actually spent time to process and express, your body thinks you're still actually running from the quote unquote lion, right? Why would you want your body to constantly think that you're running from the lion? That sounds like stress. And that sounds like systems in your body overworking in ways that they really shouldn't have to. But you have to know how to work the systems. So, definitely that. Sometimes we have to choose vulnerability over tenacity. I know vulnerability is hard. I know vulnerability is hard because generally other people don't really accept or like it. But crying creates connection. So, one of the things about crying is when you're crying for things that are, when you're crying for things that kind of need other people's support, your tears have more protein in them. So, they will roll down your cheeks more slowly. And this is something I read. I will find it and share it if anyone's interested. But your tears roll down your cheeks more slowly so that other people can notice and help to support you appropriately, right? Not that they take over whatever the situation is, but to help to support you appropriately. Like we are communal. Um, so crying allows us to actually reach out for help to other people instead of just holding things just to ourselves. Crying creates that connection, but also crying creates connection to yourself as well, right? So often we block ourselves off in order to get things done, in order to serve other people, in order to make sure that other people know that we are quote unquote good. Because that's one of the things, right? When you're a kid, it's like, stop that crying, stop that crying. When you get older, it's like, stop that crying because you want to be good. That's what is shown as discipline. Um, but discipline isn't a lack of emotion. So oftentimes we stop our connection with ourselves because other people want us to stop crying. But we need to actually connect to ourselves in order to move wholly through the world. So when we cry, we don't just have space to connect with other people, slow tears, but we also have room to connect with ourselves and ask ourselves the questions, well, what are my feelings trying to tell me? One of the phrases that I love and need is feelings aren't facts, right? Um, Two things about that. When we don't cry, our feelings do start to kind of like run the show, whether we want to or not. So again, it's not really us in the driver's seat of our lives. Um, but also in the realm of feelings aren't facts. If we see feelings as information, then we can take this moment of connection and truly ask ourselves, hey, well, what are my feelings trying to tell me? What do I need to know? What do I need to see? And what have I been ignoring that maybe I need to put some mechanisms behind to continue doing the things I need to do well, instead of from a place of running from the lion, instead of from a place of survival, right? So you only get to have those conversations with yourself when you allow yourself connection, right? Connecting with other people is fantastic. It's extremely important. Connecting with yourself is probably more important, right? Because then again, it brings us back to a state of worthiness as opposed to being in a state of constant performance for other people. You don't have to be performative with yourself. And if you are, that's a bigger problem. You need help. You should get some, and that's okay. We all get help every now and then. I see my therapist every other week. That's my girl. Um, so you have to be able to put down the performance in order to ask yourself the real questions about what's going on, right? And the reason I say all these things are a business strategy is because who is in the office? Like, you have to ask yourself that question. Who is actually in the office when you are in the office, right? Who are you? You are an inspired person. You are a person with something to bring to the world that looks like you, right? There's a calling that's like a part of your life, that's on your life. But if you're constantly blocking the flow of emotion and the flow of feelings that is actually like real and natural to you, the thing that can manifest from you is only something that is given to you by someone else. And that's not what you want. You want the thing that comes from you to actually be you. We talk about authenticity constantly. We talk about authenticity constantly, and I am a fan of the word. One of my offers has authenticity in it, right? Brand authenticity power hour. If you want to do one with me, you sure can. I'll put it in the chat. And we talk about authenticity constantly, but we talk about it from a place that's a little bit more contrived. It's like, I want you to seem genuine. I want to seem genuine, right? I want to seem connected and emotional. Like, we more want the appearance and the performance that is palatable by other people. And yes, that is important. But you have to put your own actual inspiration into it. And you don't get that inspiration if you're constantly blocking yourself from actually having any feelings. Inspiration is felt. If you can't feel, how can you be inspired? Right? Like, brand strategy is always personal. Like, business strategy is always personal in one way or another, right? And it's okay for us to accept that we're not robots. Like, we're not the AI that is, showing up and doing a lot more work than it previously has. And one time I actually asked my AI, I was like, well, in the future, what are the things that are going to matter for people, um, if you're doing so much, right? And it said emotional intelligence. The thing that's going to matter is going to be emotional intelligence. That's the thing that it can't really do. It can definitely give you amazing answers about things that are beautiful and well thought and poetic. It sure can. And they're very helpful. But person to person, we actually need each other. So if we don't have emotional intelligence for ourselves, how are we supposed to have emotional intelligence for other people who are going through real life things? Right? People are still going to need people, which is why I say business is always personal. Business is for people, right? You're not selling to things, you're selling to people. Branding is always personal because it's about the personality of an organization, a business, a company, right? And that personality really does start with the founder. Like, the founder, or if we're down the line, whoever the heads are. But it's really the founder who's attracting people to it, right? You're attracting stakeholders, you're attracting employees, you're attracting partners and clients. Like, all of those things are attraction. But if you are showing a personality that is not yours, one that has a brave face instead of a real face, you're always going to attract things that don't actually align with you. Like, none of the things will actually feel fulfilling. And that's going to be hard, which creates more burnout, right? Which creates more confusion. So to allay confusion, to allay confusion, it is so important to feel your feelings, to actually cry, um, to actually reach out for help, to engage other people as people, so that when you're problem solving, you're not just doing it from the position of getting through something because it's painful. Um, just tenacity. Tenacity is very important, right? To get through things. The hard things are very important. But one of the tools that you have to get through things is actually your tears. So I encourage you to have a good cry, to periodically allow yourself in the appropriate places, in the appropriate spaces, with the appropriate people. I'm not Don't you go into a meeting and say Olivia told me to cry. I did not. Unless it's appropriate. I've definitely had meetings where we cry, right? Because the work I do was asking about a lot of very personal stuff. So sometimes we end up crying. Um, Maria says it's very scary when it doesn't move forward. We need space to process so we don't spiral. Yeah. 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 Spiraling happens. Spiraling happens. Um, there's a saying that's like the only failure is quitting. And I think a lot of the time we come to the place of quitting because we spiral, right? We get to we don't process. So now the things that are scary become present always. When we don't process, trauma is present always, right? And I mean, even a word like trauma, like it feels a little big, but there are a lot of impactful situations you go through when you are operating a business. There are things that will imprint on you because you're doing something that is personal and something that does have an effect on how you can live your life, right? And trauma is an imprint of something that makes you say, "Ooh, I shouldn't do that because now I have a fear attached to it." Um, that makes my body feel unsafe, right? And if we don't actually address the things, if we don't process what's happened, if we don't process our feelings within what's happened, um, spiraling, spiraling is real. And especially as women, right? Especially as women. I don't think we talk nearly enough about our hormones as as we're going through like operating businesses and showing up in the world, right? Like having a 28-day cycle is 28 days of emotional shifts. So you have to listen to what's going on in your body so that you can respond appropriately. You have to be very clear about what's going on and what time you're on so that you can be very clear about the decisions you're making before you blow things up or don't react enough. Sometimes you do need to react a little bit more. I've always been a little bit docile, and I probably haven't reacted as badly as I should have to some things too, right? And even that is a part of not having a connection with myself. Like not having a connection with myself also means that when the bad things happen and I should be enraged, I haven't allowed myself to do it, right? So it's not even just about crying and processing and getting back to peace or the semblance of peace. It's getting back to functional peace. And sometimes functional peace does mean telling someone the truth about what they did to you so you can get back to center. Um, so as not to spiral. So yeah, that is what I have to say about that. I really hope you engage yourself emotionally as you're processing and going through operating in your business or in someone else's business, just operating as a human being. Like you are absolutely worthy of real emotions, period. You are worthy, period. Actually, I had a student, I'm an adjunct professor. I had a student um, reach out to me yesterday, and she said in her 53 years of living, no one has ever told her that she's worthy. She was telling me how she was burning out on the final paper, how like, she's working her day job. There's just so many things going on. And she's like, Girl, for real, I don't know. She said, Girl, I don't really know what's going on. And I was like, Well, you need to rest. You need to actually feel your feelings, take a little time and start over again because you're worthy of that. Um, and she replied like, "No one's ever told me that I'm worthy." So if no one's ever told you you're worthy of, I don't know, love or just love, this is baseline. This is love, right? If no one ever told you that, you are worthy. Period. Tracy says, when I worked for a company, I cried all the time in front of my boss, no less. Not for sympathy, but because I didn't have the words to express my anger. Oh, yeah. I didn't have the words to express my anger is that's a lot. That's a lot. And, good for you for expressing in the ways that you could. And I really hope that you figured out different ways to communicate the things or went to places that didn't trigger you in the ways that it sounds like you were triggered. Um, That's a real thing too. When we're around people who don't know how to express their anger properly, when we're around people who don't know how to be vulnerable with themselves. Like one of the things we want to be if we're starting businesses is good bosses, right? We want to be good bosses. And the only way we can be good bosses, unlike bosses we've experienced in the past, is to have emotional connection with ourselves so we can create appropriate emotional connection with the people who work for us and with us, right? It sounds like things weren't being communicated very well um, where you were working, and that's actually very normal. I was reading for a client one time about executive coaching, and it was talking about how executive coaching is great, but a lot of these people need therapy. Like you're trying to be a leader of other human beings when you're coming from a place of inferiority, like you don't like yourself. And then trying to lead other people is going to be detrimental to the other people. Um, so as we're building our stuff, as we're building our empires, as we're doing things that are going to change the world and change lives, we have to remember to not be the people who didn't look for ways to be better, who didn't look for ways to be more complete, to be more whole. There's no perfection. There is no perfection. Obviously, even in work relationships, there's opportunities for repair, right? But in order to get to a point of repair, in order to get to a point where you have rapport for repair, you have to not suck as as a human being, and you have to actually have some connection with yourself in order to be able to hear that you are wrong and not feel like it's the end of the world. Crying gives you that. Crying is like little releases so the world doesn't end because you think it's going to end. It's not going to end. You just need to cry, feel your feelings, and pivot. You might need to pivot. That's a thing. All right, girl. I'm gonna go. I need to start my day. Um, this was great. I am so glad we had a chance to talk about this. I enjoy the soft skills and not just the communication soft skills with other people or the relational soft skills with other people, but the skills that we really need for ourselves. They are things that do become tangible in ways that we probably wouldn't connect to it. Um, that's why they're so important. Like your decision making is hinged on this. Your relationships are hinged on this. Your partnerships, even who you pitch, like even your ambition is hinged on whether or not you allow yourself to feel feelings because you will shoot low. You will shoot low if you feel like you can only go places that just make you feel good. You won't challenge yourself. You won't take risk. And entrepreneurship is risk, right? Growing entrepreneurship, growing as a business owner requires risk. So that care, that crying, it's necessary. So I wish you tears in in the absolutely like best way. So if you want to keep up with me, I will drop my newsletter link in the comment section. If you would like to work with me, I will drop the link for the Power Hour in the comment section. And I hope you stay intentional and keep flourishing because I think you're amazing and you're awesome and the world needs you. The world needs your wholeness and you need your wholeness. And I just want you to be inspired. All right. See you later. Have a really good Maven morning. Bye.